Hi, this is Hans from Request for Music, and I'm going to look at XINGSHI if used as a sequencer, because that's the next step. In another movie, I showed you how to use XINGSHI as sort of a wavetable, and obviously you can have lots and lots of frames in there, and yeah, just create waves by changing the modulation depth from the modulator into the carrier and changing the noise settings for that frame as well. And it's going to record that for all of the frames separately. So now the next step is to just create a couple of frames or a set of frames and just create some kind of a melody. Well, of course I could set all of those pitches manually in there, but actually I've added something to it. So if you've got a keyboard connected, which I have, a MIDI keyboard from the pitch, and I've got some kind of controller. I got something called the MIDI Fighter Twister, which is a thing with 16 knobs, and every knob can be used as a switch as well, or as a button. And I've got the button connected to through the performance setting, or the performance setting of voltage modular, into the next button from XINGSHI. So that means that if I just switch a couple of things in there, so actually you've got up to 99 frames. I'll just switch 16 on for now. You see it's going to run through them, and I'm going to change the speed for every one of them. Now I'll do that later on, but if I click on that dial, on that button, now you see that I'm going to the next and the next and the next. So that means that it's easier for me if I'm going to create some kind of a sequence. And obviously it's listening to the keyboard and it's playing those notes, but the pitch of the keyboard is normally added to whatever pitch is in there in the frame. So if I leave it dialed or leave it connected, you'll actually get a higher sequence than you were intending to do. So we'll have a listen to that later. But for now, I'm just going to switch this KI button on, which stands for keyboard input. And if I switch that on, it's actually going to only stay at that single frame. You see that it's set solo on as well, and it's waiting for keyboard input. So if I switch, or if I just press on my keyboard, it's going to record that note. If I'm going to the next frame by clicking that button on my controller, I can go to the next one. So I press the next note and go to the next, and sorry, I went one too far, and I switch off my KI, and as soon as you'll actually going here, it's going through those, and as I said, it's going through it at a higher, so I have to switch my keyboard back. So here that's going through it, but sequencer, yeah, well, not right, because it's really waiting for your keyboard input. And of course I could switch all of these to a long or shorter time, so I have it set to one frame for the editing stuff, and switch edit nth on, and just dial this back to maybe 1/16. So it's going to dial. It's set at reset at the moment. So I'm going to do that for everyone. But every time that I press the keyboard, now it will not. So it's running through that sequence. And when I press the key, I'm hearing it, because then I'm switching on the attack, decay, sustain, or release. I'm then switching the envelope. But I also have a gate output here, and actually I can use the gate output to drive itself. And so I get something like this, and just dial the envelope back a bit. So now I've got this, and it's not being driven by the keyboard at the moment, so I can do all kinds of stuff to use this as a standard sequencer, sort of. So that means that if I'm in edit nth, I'm at my first frame, And I'll level back a bit. Because I'm at edit nth, it's actually the modulator setting is going to affect all of the frames. So if I dial this, it's going to affect all of the frames. If I get my edit nth on off, it's only going to affect that first one. So that also means that if I get my edit nth and I do something like 4, for instance, so switch to 4. Now let's go into the second frame and do the same thing for every 4th frame. Maybe dial the pitch off for that frame. Maybe set that to an octave lower. So I'll double click that. Use my slash and -12. And maybe go to my first frame again and do every 3rd frame or something like that. Do something weird. So I'll go to 3, so it's affecting 1, 4, 7, and so on. Switch edit nth on and switch the pitch up. This as well. And maybe I want to also affect morphing of the sound. So, well, let's set morphing on. And maybe also experiment with the morphing of the carrier, because it has a couple of different values there. Or maybe instead dial up the I've dialed up the carrier volume. So what I did was dialing up the carrier volume for every 3rd frame, and I changed the pitch for those as well. And again, if I want to change the pitches for every one, because for instance now I did was that I changed every 3rd and I added an octave. But again, if I use this, and so let's say that I've got this set to 1 single frame and dial this up again, that if I wanted to change the complete sequence in transposition, obviously I've got this transpose button, but if I got this set at 1, got this to edit nth, double click this, I can just subtract a couple of notes from this, say 5 semitones. And I don't have my link switched on. And if I don't have link switched on, it's not going to combine the pitch, or it's not going to set the value for the main pitch into the pitch of the carrier. If I do so otherwise, I actually, so let's dial this off for now. If I, for instance, would switch the link on and I would just go through these frames, it will actually affect all of those frames and all of those pitches. And it will actually do that for both the modulator pitch and the carrier 2 pitch. So if I go through this, you hear that it's affecting the overall sound of the sequence, because I don't have those ratios for the modulators being inharmonic at the moment. So that changes the overall sound of an FM synth, so to speak. So you hear that you can do lots of stuff like that. Yep. So I hope that gives you an idea of what XINGSHI can do with this again. And next up will be randomized stuff. So I'll get back to you later. Cheers. Bye bye.